Let's begin with wherever you would like to begin, Rachel.
Man, you know what I really want to talk about is Sean's description of the dog sled event with Chris
Mm,
Spieler, and this kind of theme came up throughout his interview with us, which was everybody struggles. You don't realize that they struggle in the same way that we all do. And everybody has those moments of, I don't think I can do this. But then you watch, I think the exact phrase he used was the elite psycho assassin robot athletes who go to the games. You watch them get into that state of truly struggling, and you know how fit they are, and you think that when they step out there, they're completely confident and they know exactly what's going to happen and how they're going to do things. But it reminds us that we're all human, and we're all capable of putting our head down and doing the hardest things in our lives. But an interesting piece of that to me was that he's talking about athletes in an elite competition doing that. And a lot of us may have trouble believing that about ourselves when we are just regular gym goers, which describes me. I'm a regular gym goer, right? So putting my head down in a workout and getting it done, that's something that I can do, but I wouldn't necessarily push myself to the same degree as an elite athlete. On the other hand, I may push myself to the same degree as an elite athlete about the things that serve my purpose and that I know will maximize my personal potential.
it's like almost if you measured the wattage, the physical output, of
Yeah.
course, a games athlete would be far, far higher. But
Yes.
if you measure the, I'm going to hesitate to use the word willpower, but the mental
Mm.
outputs, if you could
Yes.
somehow tap into whatever it demands or to come up against your limitations and
Yeah.
forge your identity against them and forge your belief structure,
Yeah.
that is probably the same. Like whether like maybe they've got better at it, maybe they've trained it, but we're all
Yeah.
challenged in that domain.
Yes. Oh, it's so true. Yeah. What do you think the qualities of character are that allow people to tap into that next level of being
Mm,
capable of more than we think we are?
good question. I think the
Yeah.
first one's acceptance.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I
Talk
think
talk more about that.
accepting reality as it is and not trying to change it. Like that's
Ooh.
I think that's the first thing we're doing. That's what meditation teaches you. That's what our
Yes.
exercise, like observe your inner athlete. That's what they teach you. We're not trying to lie to ourselves. That's what awareness of
Mm.
bound nature and free nature does. It's like I'm tuning in to as an accurate a representation of reality as possible, and I'm accepting it. I'm accepting what's there, and that's the first stage of, well, it's the four A's of adaptation, right?
Yes.
Acceptance,
Yes.
awareness, accountability, then adaptation. So
Mm.
yeah, that acceptance is the first piece, and I think that's the character skills, the character traits that we have to work on, or one of the first ones. Have you had a chance
Yeah.
to think about this?
A little bit. The easy answer that comes to mind is self-belief, right? But that's almost like a really trite answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
Yeah, self-belief is this well that you can draw from. And most of us are really only taking little sips of water
Mm.
from the well, just little sips of water. I think that we tap into a high level of self belief when we put ourselves in situations where we can hit flow state. And one of the like biggest mistakes that I see athletes make is not accepting, to bring it back to what you said, the appropriate challenge skills balance in order to hit flow state. What I mean by that is our the level of challenge and our personal skill level needs to sit on this threshold of where our comfort zone is and where outside unknown is. The threshold is that line that we cross when we're not quite sure we can do it, but we're engaged in the challenge. So self-belief is it exists at that threshold, and we build more the more we exist at that threshold. That's
Oh,
my unplanned answer.
it's a nice parallel to exposure therapy, isn't it? It's like, okay,
Ooh,
with
yeah.
exposure therapy, you present yourself with slightly more than you're comfortable with. So if I was
Mm,
scared of needles and terrified needles, I'd practice looking at a photo of a needle first, and then I'd have one in
yeah.
the room, and then I'd be able to look at the needle, and then I'd be able to touch it, hold it, then I'd be able to touch it against
Yeah.
my skin, and I'd
Yeah.
progress and progress and progress. And I love the idea there of the goal with exposure therapy and the goal of challenging yourself isn't to prove that those things were actually easy, because maybe they're not. It's to
Yes, maybe
prove
they're
that
not.
you're braver, tougher, stronger than you ever believed you were.
I love that. Yeah. And I think a lot of athletes feel very impatient with that process and they push themselves too far too early. So
Yeah,
they end up in the panic zone, which actually reinforces beliefs about not being able to do
yeah,
things.
yeah. Fear of injury is a huge one there.
Oh, yeah.
Handstand push-ups, box
Yeah.
jumps after you've scraped your knee like an ice cream peeler. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's an ice cream scoop.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all
And
those.
do you peel ice cream in the
Yeah,
UK?
I
Should
peel
we
it.
talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
yeah. It's a strange thing we do. Like you wouldn't understand us Brits.
Yeah, the box jump one is really interesting, right? Because there's this sense of like, no, do it. Like force yourself to do it. As
And
though
if I'm
that's
not
the
doing
best.
24 inches or whatever, then I'm not good enough. And there's no point doing 12 inches. There's no point jumping onto a 20 kilo, 45-pound plate.
Yeah, there's no point.
Mm.
That's all or nothing thinking.
Yeah,
Classic.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, if I
Mm,
can't do this perfectly, there's no point doing it at all. Linking
mm,
back to that idea of like what character traits or
yeah.
character skills can we practice to truly kind of push that threshold,
Mm,
the often cited answer is willpower. And
yes.
I think there's a place for willpower, right? It's
Yeah.
important. Like we need it. It's like when we really have reached our limit, can I utilize that willpower? But
Mm,
there's a whole host of other tools in the toolbox to pull out that will help you along the way. Willpower is
mm,
one of them.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's one of those things that for the man who holds a hammer, every problem in the world looks like a nail. And
Yes.
it's like, okay, right, okay, you can't use willpower for everything, and maybe there's other elements of this to train alongside mental
Yeah.
toughness, willpower, which is the often cited character skill of
Yes.
CrossFit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you think some of those other like tools are?
Oh, so many. The ability to be vulnerable, I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
To truly look at potential weaknesses or things that hold you back,
Yeah.
with compassion, which is another one.
Yes.
That agility, flexibility of mindset.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, self belief is definitely one of them, like you mentioned. Like I don't want to gloss over that because that's
Yeah.
such an important one.
Sure.
It's almost endless,
Yeah.
and it's all of those combined, I think.
Mm. That's why it can be so challenging to describe what great mindset is
Yeah.
because it's so many things and it's different for everybody, I think, too.
Yeah, because on one hand you have like the David Goggins type of mindset of just like just
Sure.
crush, push, push. Definitely a place for that. And then
Yeah.
if that burns you into a hole, which I've seen it do time and time again with many athletes and
Yeah.
especially coaches as well,
Yeah.
then it becomes a problem.
I agree. Yeah. What interested you in this one?
In the element of or the
No.
podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a few actually.
Mm.
There's a few. One of them actually was when Sean was talking about the best moments of his broadcasting career. And he's talking
Yeah.
about preparation, not over
Mm.
preparing where you become restrictive, but preparing enough that you've got stability. Because
Yeah.
there's an element of preparation which is absolutely essential. Like
Yes.
proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. There we go. Preparation and planning prevents piss poor
Just a
performance.
lot of P's for that
Yeah,
pop
there
filter.
is. Yeah, 7 P's in a row. And yeah, there's that element, very very important, and it gives us that kind of baseline, that stability, that structure, that an element of the known. It creates the known within
Yes.
the potential unknown and allows us to push in further and further into the unknown.
Mm.
But you can't prepare for everything. And again, part of a great mindset is that flexibility, that willingness to adapt and to risk stepping into the unknown.
Totally. Well, what you're describing is the balance between order and chaos.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
right. Exactly right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on what order and chaos look like for the majority of athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, uh, let's talk about preparation in terms of just a training session, right?
Hmm.
So, preparation starts the day before, how you're fueling, how you're hydrating, how your bedtime routine is, how well you're sleeping, what time you're
Hmm.
getting up in the morning, your morning routine, all of those elements of preparation play into your training session. And then there's mindset preparation. Our the game plan, I'd love for you
Hmm.
to talk about that because that would be great. But the game plan, one of our new products, is designed specifically to help athletes prepare for each training session. And preparation is what gives us confidence. When we have the structure of how we're going to approach a workout mentally, when we actually get into the absolute chaos of a workout. And chaos is uncertainty and hardship. It's the easiest way to describe it, and it's also an element of novelty too. So stepping into hardship requires having structure, or at least maximizing the potential output.
Mm. I love that. The
Yeah,
preparation is what gives us confidence.
yeah,
Yeah, I really like
yeah.
that. Yeah, and how do you usually see athletes failing to prepare properly for? I was going to do loads of P's again then. To prepare properly for training.
Not working, not planning for mindset, right? It's
Mhm.
it's almost it's an afterthought. The thinking is I either have it or I don't. If I don't have it, then it's going to be a shitty workout. If I do have it, then I'm going to do great.
Mm. Yeah, I see a lot of athletes just like rushing in, especially those the kind of
Oh yeah.
those 5:30 p.m. like they've finished work at 5 and they're straight
Yes.
into the class and it's like shit,
Yeah.
I've left everything behind and I'm rushing and I'm like I'm still half of my mind's at work, half of it's with the kids that I need to sort out,
Oh,
half of it's with
yes.
like whatever's happening at home. Like there's challenges and they just seep their way into training. um
Oh yeah.
oh, by the way, I'm not above this. I often get to the gym and I'm like, oh, I haven't prepared properly, when I'm like, oh, I see this working in, which is when I use the game plan, which we'll definitely talk about in a bit,
Yeah.
to kind of refresh and to kind of remind myself of what's important in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Rushing and multitasking, I'm
Mm.
finding, are one of the greatest hindrances to both just like mental clarity and peace, but also to high performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Think
Yeah.
about all the routines that you hear about elite sports people performing before they train,
Yeah.
not even before they compete, before they train, before they do anything.
Yeah.
Really, it's like they'll wear the same pair of socks. They will
Yes.
always. John Terry, a football player, he always used to use the same urinal in in one of the changing rooms, and he'd like, I'm never going outside that, and there'd just be like a queue, plenty of urinals free, and
Yes.
he'd be behind someone.
Yeah.
That's kind of a British reference for you of some good old fashioned football.
I love it.
Um, so yeah, there's these things that we do time and time again, and I think what they do is they help to eliminate the unknown.
Yes. Right. Yeah, you're just giving yourself little anchors to hold
Yeah,
on to while you step into something that's going to be challenging.
exactly. It stabilizes things.
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
stabilizes things.
Mm.
Nice. Okay, what's on your list?
Ooh, I actually really loved his honesty. He's talking about having trouble unplugging, so kind of shutting
Mm.
off and letting work go, being with family, letting things sit rather than work, 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 work. And I can really relate to this. I think a lot of us can. A lot of us have tendencies in that direction. And yeah, I just loved his honesty. It was like sometimes I fail at this, and he's a dad now, so it's actually really
Mm.
important to him that he sets a good example, and it's like creating this new level of presence. I thought that was great.
One thing I've found in new parents, especially, is it
Yes.
can become this. I from the outside looking in, I can understand how it would become a highly stressful or potentially anxiety inducing situation, especially for people who are more aware, and
Mm,
for people who are kind of aware of the impact of all the subtle nuances of our behavior, because you're thinking, oh, I have
mm,
to be perfect for this person, so they model up,
yeah.
and so also they model off something that is the best example as possible. And I completely get this. Like, that's why Jason always talks, coach Jason, within
Yeah.
Mindset Rx'd, he always talks about being the example, and he's even got that
Mhm.
tattooed on him. It's like, okay, I'm going to be the example for this, for everyone around me, for myself, for people to model me off, for my daughter in Jason's case, for my wife, for like everyone at work. Like, this being the example is very important. But there's sometimes this thought of like, oh, I have to be perfect, and again, we're into that perfectionism thing.
Yes. Again, the sense that the stakes are very high moment to moment, when in reality, any relationship we're creating is, it's like grains of sand. One
Mm,
little like micro thing at a time. And they matter. Not saying that they don't matter, but there's a bigger picture to look at the same time.
and I'd say part of that bigger picture is the allowing someone to be comfortable with imperfection and your
Yes.
relationship with imperfection, and then doing something about it.
Yes. Yeah. Is is that improving one's
Mhm.
relationship with imperfection?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to lose my temper occasionally. Um, I'm going to be a bit too rushed when I get to the gym occasionally, but I'll do the best I can. And
Yeah.
it's strange that, well, it is kind of strange, and it's obvious at the same time that that ability to do that makes things easier in the long run. The like to admit our faults and to look at the
Yeah.
discomfort in the eye and to go, look, I am
Mm.
not perfect. That helps.
Yeah. Uh, the the idea that we don't have to browbeat ourselves into being perfect all the time
Mm.
is very freeing.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
not going to be. There's no such
Yeah,
thing as
literally
perfection.
can't be.
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
can't do it. It's
Yeah.
you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
That's
I'm a recovering perfectionist myself, so yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also a societal norm for us, a Western societal norm,
Agreed.
like
For sure.
produce the highest thing possible, the highest quality possible, and
Yeah.
don't ever fall beneath that. Always
Yeah.
A's, straight A's the whole time.
Always is.
The other thing
Mm.
and I suppose what links into this quite nicely is that Sean spoke a lot about like pursuing his dream, and I wanted to get into what it meant to be broadcasting and
Mm.
commentating and everything that goes along with that, because it's a job that you don't often, obviously you see it the whole time within the CrossFit community, but you don't like
Yeah.
realize, oh, that's a really important part of what we do. And I've really liked how he said, like,
Yeah.
gave it the analogy to why do you need music in films? Because
Yes.
it sets the scene, it provides the background, and it kind
Mm.
of it gives you something to follow along with and adds to it.
Mm.
But the thing that I found very interesting is saying, like, when it feels good, it doesn't feel like work. And it's this idea of effortless effort. Yeah, sure, there's times that
Mm.
we have to put in the hard yards and it's going to suck and you don't want to get out of bed and go training and it's cold and like I'd rather stay in bed and I'm tired and all that kind of thing. There's going to be days like that in whatever you're doing. But when it feels really good, it doesn't feel like work. And that's the difference between, I think, pursuing something that is intrinsically motivating to you and something that
Mm.
is you're doing purely for extrinsic results.
Yes. Oh, it's like so beautifully put. Yeah. When we're pursuing mastery over something because we are desiring the result, and often the result is a form of external validation. It's like, if I achieve this, then I'll be worthy. Then people will think I'm good enough. But if it's something that is inherently rewarding, like I find coaching, doing a good job is just like, it's just fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
What might look difficult to other people is you playing, right?
Yeah, it does.
And
Yeah.
it gives you a chance to express yourself uniquely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're very authentic moments there.
Yeah, it's settled into who you uniquely are, and you're not trying to project. It's almost like what we spoke about with coaching before, about
Yeah.
like when you're trying to be the persona that you think you should be, that's when things get challenging and icky.
Yeah. Yeah. And icky is right. Yeah.
Icky's a technical term.
Yeah. You can find that in our mindset dictionary. Feeling
Yeah,
icky.
you can do. Let's go put it in the Mindset Rx glossary. What else came up in this for you? Is there anything that's piqued your interest?
Yeah, his value of being present, especially in light of the pandemic, and feeling gratitude for the things that he does have, and the sense that a lot of that I'm gonna try to quote what he said, because I actually thought it was really beautiful. We're not all in the same boat as we weather this. We're all weathering the same storm. Some of us have yachts, some of us have rowboats, some of us just have life jackets, and some of us don't even have that. And so getting through this is going to require all of us helping each other out. And what he was getting to there was appreciating the time being together, and having presence in our moments, especially with other people.
Mm, really nice. And this obviously plays into a well-rounded and developed mindset instead
Mm,
of kind of like almost like if your mindset is just focused on mental toughness, then it's not a well-balanced, like well-developed mindset. Is one element is very
yeah,
strong and very good, and like well done for developing that. There's other elements in there, like gratitude, which is one of
yeah,
Sean's pieces.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, tying like presence to training and appreciating the time that we have in the gym, I think a lot of people experience that as gyms reopened. That's of course changing wherever you
Mm.
are in the world, but the the appreciation for what we do have and can do can be a really powerful tool to use, especially again as we're weathering a lot of kind of global chaos with the unknown.
How do you find you practice gratitude in the best fashion?
I am I have always been very comfortable and found it rewarding to express gratitude directly to people who've helped me or offered support. And you've experienced that just this week, Tom. So it's your firsthand
You're
experience.
good at it.
I am, because I've practiced it for nearly my whole life. I say thank you. And I think that I am able to feel a high level of gratitude because I have lived in mental states where I felt like I was at the bottom of the barrel, barely scraping myself up. So the moments that are good, or where I'm getting a hand up, like I feel extreme gratitude for those.
Are there any tools that you use with athletes that help them develop gratitude, that help them develop this place, or grow from this place of like, I'm really thankful to be here?
Hmm. Our AMWAP, as many wins as possible, is a fantastic way of doing that. It is also a really good way of building presence, which is part of the TAPS methodology that we use. The idea is we write down as many wins as possible in a certain amount of time or related to a certain part of life. And the act of forcing ourselves to remember the positive things gives us better brain wiring to notice them, because we're wired to remember negative events much more quickly, like within microseconds. If something bad happens, your brain stores it in memory very, very quickly within microseconds. Something good or neutral takes, I believe the actual number is like 12 seconds of holding it in your memory to store it in short-term
Interesting.
memory. So it is, yes. And the reason for that is survival, right? There's a biological reason that we're wired that way. And it has helped us to survive. It helps us to remember very quickly things that are not good for us. But at the same time, if we are not engaged in a practice of reminding ourselves of the things that we've done that day that have served our goals, the ways that we've improved, how we've confronted bound nature, and also just things that make us smile, like things that we feel gratitude for experiencing, uh, it's really easy to just get into this super negative mindset. We're only thinking about the things that are wrong and uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's really nice. So kind of forcing the practice of revisiting our wins and revisiting those things that we're grateful for, things that
Yeah.
make us feel good. I think a fault that lots of athletes fall into when they start with the AMWAP is they think, okay, I've got wins to write down today, or 3 minutes of wins, and it's just like I'm just going to sprint through them. as
Yeah.
opposed to focusing on the quality. And like, because just jotting down trained doesn't do anything.
Hydrated.
Yeah, hydrated. It's like, great,
Yeah.
well done. Like that, but
It's like a little
it
checklist.
it's great that you did that. But in order to really rewire it, remember that 12 seconds or 12 times
Yeah.
as long point that you just brought up. It's like, I've got to sit with
Yeah.
that. I've got to relate it to why it's important, relate it to my ultimate
Mm,
vision. I've got to try and cultivate this feeling, which you can do, like bring this feeling of like, oh, I'm improving. You got to bring that to
yeah.
light and you bring that to the
Yeah.
center of who you are for a moment.
And that why it's a win is so important to include for sure.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, how it's
Yeah.
taking you forwards towards your goal. And I also think
Yes.
the stoic nature or the stoic part um of memento mori, like remember you're going to die,
Mhm.
remember that everything's going to pass, remember like this could be your last time. Like that's a good way of, it's scary again, but it's
Yeah.
ultimately it's one of the most truthful ways of looking at the world. Like we're not going to get this forever, like everything is temporary, and being
It's
able
true.
to remind yourself of that and remind yourself that this could be the last time I get to train. I wrote a piece a while back that did the rounds
Yeah.
about like this could be the last time you train. Like this could be the last time you feel that horrible choking sensation of thrusters. It could be the last time
Mm.
you get on the assault bike and almost vomit. It could
Yeah.
be the last time you get to hang out with your friends at the box and have a good time and train freely and enjoy yourself and laugh. So like if that could be the last time, you better make the most of it.
Yeah. How present do you want to be if you knew ahead of time that it was going to be your last time?
Exactly. How would you act
Yeah.
differently?
Yeah. It's really good, like clarifying question.
Yeah. How, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine how grateful you'd be for those people
Ah,
around you.
I know. Yeah.
Incredible. And all the little things would slide.
Yeah. That's right.
Is there anything else on your list?
Oh, we talked about the flow state. I thought that was really important. I think that does it for me today.
Yeah. Likewise, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we've brought up many of the of each other's points.
It's true. Yeah.